Welcome to Boom Shot, the show where we take a look at film, photography, and the business behind the scenes. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're here in the studio. We're looking at some shots that we took from when we shot our advanced trailer for Godsend. This was back in 2015. So we're taking a look at these two different shots, and you can see this one right here, and then we've got this one. And both of these have different issues when we're looking at the color and the exposure of the images. So we shot these both in 4K. So this shot was on a Panasonic GH4, and then this was shot on a Red Dragon. Both of them handle color really, really well. But when we're looking at them and we want to match up with other shots, there's always going to be some post-production work that you need to do. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Jordan Miller from Purpose Driven Films, who brought his GH4 out and helped us shoot this scene. So in our first image here, we shot this with a very flat color profile. So we're looking at a shot that was made to be as flat as possible without being really deep in the shadows and really blown out in the highlights, to make sure that we had as much room when we came into the editing bay to match it up with other shots as possible. So with this shot, we can see we've got a very nice light back here going on. That's it's a very soft light. It's a very beautiful shot, but we can make it a lot better by using the process of color correction and then eventually color grading. Now, to kind of give you an idea of the difference between color correction and color grading, because they are different, color correction is the process of taking all of your shots in a scene and using your tools to make sure that they match up and look generally the same and seem to be in the same moment. You're also taking, if there's a problem with the color, someone looks way too blue or someone looks way too orange or whatever, you're going to correct those issues to make sure you have the most natural skin tones. Color grading is where you're going to use your tools to add a certain look to your image. So let's say you wanted to make a shot look like, a shot from Transformers. You would add more teal into the shadows, more orange into the highlights, and do those color grading effects to make sure that you get an image that gives the type of feeling you want. Today we're going to focus mostly just on the color correction, because we have a shot here that's very flat, and then over here we have a shot that's very blue. But we're going to focus on this one for now. When you're in Final Cut Pro 10, which is what we're going to be using today, you can come over here and this button will pull up your effects panel. And I've kind of squished this down to focus on the image, but most of the time it's going to look more like this. But your color correction effect is right here. So make sure you've selected the shot that you want to work on. So we're working on this one first. Take your color correction and drag this over to there. And now you can see up here, the color correction has now appeared in our inspector panel. So looking at the shot, we can see it's not perfectly balanced. So first what you want to do is hit Command 7. This is going to bring up your scopes panel. Now what scopes allow you to do is take a look at your exposure and your colors and what they're doing across the image in a scope pattern. So right here, what we're in right now is the RGB parade. Before we do anything with the colors, what we want to do is go down to Luma. So Luma is going to show you exposure. So you can see on here 0, this represents black, and 100 represents white. So what we want to do is go over to our color correction, and you can either hit this arrow or without, you don't have to drag this over onto here. You can just hit Command 6, and this will bring up your color panel, and then if you make changes, it'll add the effect. But I like to drag it. It's fun. So so we want to take a look at these three up here. We've got color, saturation, and exposure. Saturation is something we're not going to really play around with right now, but you can make your images black and white that way very easily, or you can add an effect from your effects panel. But if we go to exposure, we're going to be messing around with what you see over here. So we want our shadows to hit, if there is black in the image, we want that black to actually be represented on our scopes. So we're going to take our shadows and we're going to drag that down until those are just barely touching that 0 line. So like right here we can see it's touching. So right now you can see we've added a lot of depth in the shadows, but everything looks kind of dark. So what we do to counteract that is we grab the highlights and we're going to drag those up until those are just barely touching that white line. And we've actually got right here a little bit that's blowing out and going over 100, but that's okay because that is this part of the image, and there's not really any detail in there that we're worried about holding on to. If we go back, we can take a look and we can toggle on and off the color correction that we've done, and we can see already the changes we've made to the image. So you can see the scopes as well over here. You can see what they're doing and how they're popping back and forth. And you can see how that represents the change you're getting in the image. So we shot this in the morning. We had some cloud cover, but we had this beautiful golden light coming through here. It turned out to be a little bit more orange with the way that the GH4 processes color. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our color panel, and then we'll go back over here and we'll click our selector for our scopes. And we're going to go back to RGB Parade. So if you click on that, you can see what all of our colors are doing. So we've got blues really hitting hard in the shadows. Our reds are blowing out in the highlights, which is definitely something we're seeing here. Our blues are also blowing out in the highlights, so it's giving us kind of this orangey look. So it's not what we want to match up with the rest of our shot. So we're going to take a look over here in our color panel. This is your global adjustment, so you can just, take all the green out of the image, add the green into the image, whatever you need to do. But we're not going to mess with the global right now. What we want to do is take a look at what's hitting in our shadows and what's hitting in our highlights. So we're going to take our shadows selector here, and we can see that the blues are hitting. So we're going to drag some of the blues up so that they're not hitting quite as hard. And you got to be careful because as you go left and right, you can see it's messing with all the colors. So you want to kind of find the right blue to take that out. So that looks a little bit better to me. All right, so we're going to leave that there. And then our shadows, we're still hitting. The reds and the blues are hitting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our shadow selector, or our highlight selector, my bad, and we'll take this and we'll go towards the green a little bit and just try and even those out as much as we can. So that looks a lot more natural. And again, we can take a look at what the difference we've made by going and toggling on and off the color correction. So this is what we started out with, and this is what we have now. So you can see her skin tones look a lot more realistic here. We've got the background's white back there. All the colors look a lot better. So now that we've got that shot to where we're happy with it, Final Cut Pro will render it out. You can see it's almost finished while I was talking. But that's the shot that we have now. And that versus this, I am a lot more happy with. So looking great there. So we're going to move on to the next shot. This next shot we shot with, like I said, the Red Dragon, thanks to Jeff Tucker and Flying T Entertainment. And we shot this outside. It was a very gloomy day. It was raining. You can see there's rain all over my back over here. But it's a little bit too blue to match up with everything else that we shot for that moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, hit Command 6. And this will bring this up without ever having to drag this over to our clip. And we can start making adjustments. So if we go back and we look at the clip at the inspector panel, you can see there's no color correction on there. But if we hit Command 6 again and we make just a little change to our exposure and we go back, it's there now. So it'll automatically do that. You don't have to worry about dragging it every time. So what we're going to do is, again, I like to start by correcting my exposure first. And the red has an incredible sensor that can take so much dynamic range. So we normally don't have to do a lot of correction to the exposure in these shots. But we're going to come through and we're just going to bring that up a little bit and just make sure that that's the change we want to see. So off, on, yeah, no, that's looking good. Okay, so then we're going to go back to our color and again switch this back to RGB Parade. So looking at this, we're definitely hitting a lot of blue in the highlights. It's a sad moment, so maybe this is what you want, but to match up with the other stuff that we've got, we're going to say it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our highlight selector again, and we're going to go through and just even those out as much as possible. That's a little bit too weird. So this yellow right here, kind of this orange, my bad. This orange right here adds in a little bit more of what we're needing to kind of adjust both colors. All of our shadows are hitting in the right spot from what it looks like. So this is how we've corrected our shot, and you can take a look at it, and again, just switch back and forth between having your color corrected and not corrected, and you can see the changes we've made. We've made it look a bit more realistic. Again, skin tones looking better. That's really what you want to do, is you want to make sure that your skin tones are correct. When people's skin looks weird, your whole film looks weird, and it's very distracting. So make sure that you're focusing on that when you're doing your color correction. Alright guys, that's it for our basic color correction tutorial. Make sure you use this tool, whether you have Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro. Both of those programs have very powerful color correction and color grading tools in them, so make sure you use those. It will really bring up the production value of your film without ever having to spend a dime. So yeah, thanks for joining us guys. I really hope this helped you out. If you liked it, make sure you give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time on Boom Shot. Hi, thanks for joining us here on Boom Shot. If you like that, make sure you hit the like button below and the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss an episode. Here on this channel, you can find Boom Shot, as well as a lot of our short films and other projects that we're working on, so stay tuned.